Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Susan James, Library Manager here at Bayless Library and Assistant Director of the Superior District Library, and I welcome you to our Superior Poetry Cafe. Nice to see everyone. I'd like to thank Renee Dreiling for being our featured poet tonight, Friends of the Library for refreshments, and our library's program committee for help with planning. A few upcoming events. We have free Zumba classes in here on selected Wednesdays and Fridays at 2 p.m. in July and August. We have an antique and collectible appraisal event coming up a week from this Saturday, July 30th from 10 to 1. Mark Moran from Iola, Wisconsin will be here, and we have a few spots left if you have an item you'd like appraised. We ask that you that you sign up and pay your $10 in advance. Our Friends Summer Book Sale is also coming up August 5th and 6th. It's a Friday and Saturday. And our next Superior Poetry Cafes, we take a break in August, but September 8th we have Alex Chornyj, and then in October we have Mark Senkus. Both of them are here tonight. Renee Dreiling was born in Muskegon and raised in Central Lake. She served for 8 years in the Air Force and earned a degree in political science from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. She's been active with our Creative Endeavors group, a frequent reader at our open mics, and has been active with poetry events at Pickford Community Library as well. She's recently completed her first chapbook, which is available for purchase tonight. After her reading, we'll take a short break before our open mic, and there's a sign-up sheet if you haven't signed up yet. Please welcome Renee Dreiling.
Hi, everybody. As Susan said, I did self-publish a chapbook last September, and it's called Cliches on the Rocks with a Twist, and it's available for a mere $5. And 2 days ago, 2 days ago, I finished this, which I guess I could call it a chaplet. It's just a very, very small little booklet that I put together down at the Pickford Library as part of their makers thing that they're trying to get going there. And so I did this completely myself with Anne-Marie Smith's help, and opened it today and realized that I misspelled my name. So
isn't that poetic?
Well, it's human. It's me. So what the heck? But that is available, and I'm giving that away. If anybody would like a copy, they are welcome to it. Okay. So I'm going to read a few from the Cliches on the Rocks with a Twist to start off, and then I'm going to finish with some of those. And the first one I'd like to read is sort of the title poem, and it's called Why I Use Cliches in My Poems. Because a rose is a rose, and no other flower smells as sweet or comes in such a vivid variety of colors, or pricks your finger so sharply, so exquisitely, and makes you bleed. Because the familiar trips off your tongue, sounds like something you already knew but forgot, something you found but hadn't lost, something you lost and found again and again. Because old acquaintance can't be forgot. Old friends are best friends. Because the best evil is the evil you already know, and not the evil devil you haven't yet met. Because who cares about sheer strangers anyway? Because I'd rather have jelly with my peanut butter than any other combination of flavors that you can come up with. Salt and pepper, steaks and mushrooms, spam and eggs, but also green eggs and ham. There's room for a little variety. Because nothing gets a point across as well as a tried but true combination of words that trigger a deep wealth of memories and associations. Then you can take all of that and twist. You can just hold the applause till the end. No, it's very sweet. And this one, I don't know anybody that doesn't complain about never having enough time. And there's just a wealth of little cliches that were available for use in this poem. And I started with a little quote from Andrei Kondrescu from a poem called 5 1-Minute Eggs. And he says, space is my baby, time is my bitch. This is called On Time. I must be time's bitch. It owns me. I worship it, I do its bidding. It doles itself out to me in itty-bitty bits. Time waits for no man. I wait on it hand in hand. I offer it my all in all. I watch it and wait and wait. I yield to time, bend over backwards for it, though it never bends for me. I race against it. Time runs away. Time, I beg, stay with me just a little while. But we can never tell time anything, and we can never know what time will tell, only that it will. And this one is called A Play on Gray, and I was sort of thinking one day about the differences in spelling between the American gray and the British gray. And I started playing with it back and forth as if they were kind of a different thing depending on how it was spelled. And this is what I got. A play on gray. The gray surrounds you, not the deep gray of the night or the misty gray of the dawn, just the gray of a steady job, getting up to the gravelly gray of morning, succumbing to the gray of unconsciousness each night. Like the sampling of porridge, this one's too gray, that one's not gray enough. Somewhere in the gloaming? No. In the long graying of our lives lives a touch of gray that both shines and survives. One of the things that I'm going to kind of talk about tonight is persistence and actually what I like to call doggedness. Really sticking to something and getting to a point where I feel like I've succeeded instead of just slapping off the first thing that comes to my head and cheering that, oh yay, I did it, you know. Like, no, sometimes it takes a lot more than that. This poem I originally wrote in '96 and got it to a finished spot in 2014. It's called Escher-esque. If anybody's familiar with the artist M.C. Escher, he does a lot with optical illusions. Kind of a freaky kind of an artist, but I really like him. Escher-esque. I read all of your words, swear I thought of them myself a split second before I read them. Forgive me my small conceits in a world where it seems I struggle with a few paltry words, while everyone else can write and play, sing and dance, act and paint, all while giving birth to twin prodigies. My bleeding heart bleeds only for its selfish self. Square heart, stuffed into a round hole, stifled, muffled, and muzzled. But my stubborn heart, seemingly pounded into submission, lies passive, silent, flat upon the page, until it rises up, empowered, inspired, as art comes to life and devours you. And the next one in that theme is doggedness. And a lot of this came out of a conversation with Anne-Marie Smith, for those of you who know her. And it is about that two approaches to doing something of sometimes just doing it to the best of your ability and then letting it go, or digging a little deeper, and that's where doggedness comes from. Doggedness. You still don't know the meaning of that one. You with your lick and a promise, half a promise at best, and mostly uncapped at that. You might know patience, cat at the mouse hole patience, the kind that keeps showing up, but not the kind that digs deep, deeper than anything, down to your boot heels dug deep into lonely furrows in the cold, thick clay, desperate, stubborn to the last breath, doggedness. No, for you it's all come too easy, sometimes gone too easy. Even the hard stuff and the twinkle of a charm gone easy. Cat with 9 lives, plenty to spare, not down to your last life or your last dime yet. But now the taskmaster demands, learn this, learn it good. You don't leave the table till you swallow this one, doggedness. This is another one with 2 dates on it. I was living in Alaska in 1989 when the Exxon Valdez spilled all of that oil into Prince William Sound, and I would watch the pictures every night on TV, and I would just want to cry at how horrible it was. And I've always been a little bit of an environmentalist, but oil spills are just a terrible thing in my mind, and if anybody wants to listen to this and maybe have thoughts about the oil going under the Great Lakes, then that would be a good thing. I would be happy if I could make people think about that little subject because it's important. But this is called Valdez, and I wrote it in 1995 and 2014. Valdez. Another year goes by and still I cannot write of it, of the grief that still grips me, of the guilt I feel every time I see the pictures of their oily little faces. Yes, guilt. As sure as if I'd been tipping that bottle, not Joe Hazelwood, forsaking my duty, delegating authority to a third mate ill-equipped to steer my ship, as guilty as if I'd run the Exxon Valdez aground myself. As guilty as if I'd spooned 11 million gallons of crude purposely into Prince William Sound, drop by toxic drop. The blood of every eagle, every playful sea otter, and every salmon never spawned is on my hands. Okay, another theme for the evening seems to be activism. And one of my all-time heroes was Pete Seeger. And when he died in 2014, I wrote this for him. Pete died at the age of 94, and Pete and Toshi were married for 69 years. For 94 years he was Pete, America's tuning fork, singing his way through the hobo jungle, the Pied Piper of American descent. He was Pete, with a banjo, with a cause, just another crusader without a cape, weaving weft of song with warp of righting the wrongs of the world. For 69 years he was Pete, she was Toshi. He was husband, she was wife. He served shortcake, strawberries. She served stone soup. He was Pete, she was Toshi. He was passionate, she was passionate. He led by example, he led with song. She minded the details, kept them organized. While other people go around trying to figure out what would Jesus do, I often wonder, what would Pete think? And most importantly, what would Pete sing? Songs of hope, I'm sure. Songs of hope. Pete sang about hope. He sang about peace, the Dust Bowl and unions, and just about every song Woody ever wrote, long after Woody was gone. Then he sang them with Arlo. He was a walkin' talkin' Union Woody dictionary. Pete built the Clearwater, sang for Clearwater, sang his songs for people of every nation, and listened and learned theirs. With every song and the way that he lived his life with Toshi, Pete inspired me. And Pete inspired me to add this verse to this old song. My old man's a folk singing banjo picker, now what do you think about that? He wears a folk singing banjo picker collar. He wears a folk singing banjo picker hat. He wears a folk singing banjo picker raincoat. He wears folk singing banjo picker shoes. And every Saturday evening, he reads the folk singing banjo picker news. And someday, if I can, I'm gonna be a folk singing banjo picker, just like my old man. I got all those words out. Okay, I'm going to take a break here for a minute and read something that's not mine. But it was something I read. Some of you may remember in October we had a poet here named Michael Zarnecki, and he does emails every so often of his Wheeler Hill journal. And I read this in the journal dated July 18th. Earthly happenings. There have been tragic happenings lately. I observe, want to do something. Realize that what I can do is live my life in peace, to carry with me every day peaceful thoughts in my heart, in my being. I used to be very active politically, opposing war, opposing a nuclear waste site in our region, opposing. I eventually came to the conclusion that the work I do as a poet is maybe the most important work I do, and is where I should put my energy. I once had an occasional acquaintance say, because of my views on pacifism, he sold all of his guns. Gentle words, ideas, conversations can sometimes be more impactful than overt protest. But some of my best friends are activists, and I'm not trying to discourage anyone from being as active as you can and having your voice heard. But I think, as Michael writes, that if all you can do is just have peace in your heart and share that with the people you're able to share it with, the people that are around you, then I think that's a wonderful thing and a place to start for all of us. And that kind of leads me into the second portion here, which is mostly about peace and especially about some of the racial tension that's been going on. I feel going into the post-Obama era where we're just in so much turmoil, and I think all of us can do our part to stop it. And this is called Help Wanted. Finished this one today. Started in '96. We need more poets. Poets tell the truth, leaving pretty words in the barren places, throwing reflective words in the pretty faces, that they might see true beauty. No matter where they try to spin and hide, the poet sees through them. In this year of votes and the barter of souls, the world says later, later. The poet demands now. Sort of on that same line, this is a series of haiku called Poets Speak, and it starts with a quote from Camille Paglia, and she says, "Poets speak even when they know their words will be swept away by the wind." Poets speak of people's discontent, rising up to swallow waste like worms. Poets decry the wrack of humankind, while the pallid politicians yawp. Poets tell the tale, while others pin the tale or dizzily spin it. Okay, now I'm going to read from this book. The working title was Racial Relations in the Post-Obama, going into the Post-Obama era, but somehow it ended up, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I didn't know how to fit the other on the cover. And I was talking about heroes of mine, Pete Seeger, and Barack Obama is a hero of mine. I can't help but say that I'm disappointed that he hasn't accomplished everything that I know he wanted to. I wish he could have been more effective, but I still greatly admire the way that he has conducted himself personally in the office. And this is to Barack Obama. Just like one of those movies Hollywood remakes, can't stop making, I woke up and I was you. Assumed somewhere you woke up and you were me. In your place, I couldn't begin to fathom how to get through a single day, to bear up under the burden, the responsibility, the criticism, the uncertainty, the enemies both near and far, the damned impossibility of foreseeing the future, the sheer immensity of it all, and the hatred, the narrow-mindedness of those around me. In my place, are you frustrated by the smallness of my town, or can you glory in it? Do you see the people in my world for what they are? Can you love them as much as I do? Can you find purpose in a low-paying job in the retail world without longing to be a major player on a worldwide scale? But I think you might find it to your liking. When it comes time to return to your life, and I to mine, will you go willingly? And another hero of mine is Nelson Mandela. And this is called The Big Wish. World peace, the end of war, hunger, to abolish racism. Nelson in his prison cell, in his presidential office, dreamed of not multiracial, but non-racial. In the minds of most, the downtrodden could be excused wanting to feel those boot wielders beneath their own feet. But there are those of complicated origins, knowing not whom to hate, and hate themselves. There are those incapable of seeing truth or admitting weakness, who hate everyone, most of all themselves. Nelson, in his prison cell, dreamed the big dream of no bigotry, and incapable of hatred, wished the big wish. So, a few months back, I was at work, and this guy was in, and he was talking to one of my coworkers, and he was ranting about Obamacare. And as he left that day, as he was just about to walk out the door, and he was talking about Obama, and he said, "That fucking nigger." And I didn't have a chance to respond to him. And afterwards, in a poetry discussion, I had a young lady say that if she'd have been there, she'd have punched him in the nose. And I wish I was that brave, but then again, on the other hand, I really don't want to go around hitting somebody, but I wanted to express how I felt, and this is what I ended up with. Here's your punch in the nose, Jim. Here's my rage. As easy to see as your lack of respect for our president. Disagree with his party affiliation, his policies, his liberalness, but don't attack on the basis of the color of his skin. You should be better than that. I'm holding back, trying to keep this a civil discussion. I could fling vulgar swear words and hurtful slurs at you. That was my intention on picking up this pen. Yet already my anger has turned to sorrow and profound disappointment. Here's my rage, my tears, and my challenge to you, Jim. And I'm hoping to be brave enough to find a way to give this to him.
Choice of mail.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, he's a very likable guy. And
he's huge.
He's not. He's smaller than you. But yeah. I don't want to. I would hope to find a way to do it that opens his mind and not just closes it. So that's the real challenge. This is a found poem. And as I understand the rules for found poetry, you can edit, but you can't add. So this comes from a headline in the New York Times on the 2nd of April, 2016, and a column by Jean Lyons that was syndicated in the Sioux News on the 1st of April, 2016. And it's called Obama Chides. Obama outclasses the GOP. He tries so hard to do the right thing. And Michelle, more grace. Obama would defeat the sideshow barker and the snake charmer alike. Disregarding what he derisively calls the Washington playbook, the bellicose pronouncements of the city's permanent class of think tank commandos, Obama chides Trump's take on weapons. Would a U.S. invasion calm sectarian passions? Well, when has it ever? Obama concedes he's fallen short in the theatrical aspect. Obama tries to do the right thing. Obama chides Trump. And in different discussions I've had about words that they try to banish as hurtful, but sometimes I think we need them as tools in the fight that we're fighting. And this is one of those. Some people have said that there is no way to use the word uppity that's not a racial slur. But I disagree, because I think there's a lot in it that's worthwhile. It's important to our country, to our heritage. So I would hope to just take the hurt away from the word, because I think it's an awesome thing to be. Uppity. Let's celebrate uppity. Uppity takes a back seat to no one. Uppity seizes power, demands respect. Uppity might work demeaning jobs, but raise children to be doctors, lawyers, even politicians. Uppity fills the list of firsts. Uppity brings its own style, breaks tradition, ignores convention. Uppity not only doesn't take no for an answer, it doesn't even bother to ask the question. Uppity embodies all the qualities this upstart nation holds most dear, that gained our independence from England, and yes, insists on flying the Confederate flag that also offends. We are a nation of uppity citizens of every ethnic and religious background, at once our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. Uppity strives upward to a better life and freedom from oppression. We celebrate all Americans who refuse to know their place. This next one is kind of about how there's never just a straight ahead path to progress. You know, we go a little forward, we go a little back. But I do think, especially right now in 2016, we need to be vigilant that we are finding ways to move forward, because I do feel this great regression coming up upon us. This is called Pendulum Swings. We'll just bend us all like twigs in the wind of public opinion. Let us blow to and fro, lean to the left, then pendulum-like return to center, then inevitably swing to the right, back again. For every small advance, we then run to the rear, erasing progress, backlash whipping us around to face the heretofore conquered enemy yet again, victory snatched away. Handed to the children like a rumpled, headless doll for them to play with, attempt to salve the wounds, and repair the tears. Wept over and put tenderly to bed, and then thrown carelessly in the closet, forgotten, until time to send it to the Salvation Army with all the other useless knickknacks, baubles, tokens of a bygone era. We'll have nothing to boast of to our grandchildren. We let the fickle breeze of progress blow us into the gutter to be swept aside with the rest of life's debris. We had it all, but willy-nilly let it go. sure I was going to read this one, but this was kind of the beginning of all of it. It's called Words That Wound, and it does come out of when they were trying to banish the word nigger, and you could only say the N-word. But like I said, I believe it's an important tool. I believe it has power, no matter who uses it, so why should we let them have all the power? Words that wound. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We all learned that rhyme as children, learned to use it to deflect those words meant to incite us to anger, to violence. Further, we were taught to walk away from the bullies, find solace in distance instead of punches, walk away with maturity, with dignity. But sometimes words can't be ignored. When they sting across our backs like the lash of a whip, when they echo with the hatred of centuries. Tolerance, intolerance, to fight or not to fight. Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. Higher ground or down in the mud. Hurtful words have been proclaimed to be banished, yet I wonder if rubbing out a word does anything to erase the hatred underneath, or if dancing around words, referring only to their first letters, moves us any further beyond the schoolyard taunts. Does it raise the bar, expose us for what we are, or only further expose our failure to communicate? Would more or less words help, or only confuse an issue smothered in words and hatred and so little understanding? Sometimes I think we must pick up those hurtful words and fling them back at the offenders. Nigger, faggot, cunt, banish, ignore, or confront. Confront, confront, confront. I thought you were trying to turn the clock ahead to get me to shut up.
You did so well, Renee. You kept on going.
Can we ask her to reread that last one though, so we can get it without all the background noise?
I think I can do that again.
Okay, I would like to hear that again, I'm sorry. I think it's so powerful that
Okay.
the distraction, and I think
sorry.
it's so valuable that.
Okay.
We didn't really do it, Renee. It just looked like we did it.
But what you're saying is so important.
It is.
Okay.
Can we hear that again,
Okay,
please?
Jim, for you, I will.
It's even not for you.
You just call me. No. Okay. Words that wound. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We all learned that rhyme as children, learned to use it to deflect those words meant to incite us to anger, to violence. Further, we were taught to walk away from the bullies, find solace in distance instead of punches, walk away with maturity, with dignity. But sometimes words can't be ignored. When they sting across our backs like the lash of a whip, when they echo with the hatred of centuries. Tolerance, intolerance, to fight or not to fight, Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, higher ground or down in the mud. Hurtful words have been proclaimed to be banished, yet I wonder if rubbing out a word does anything to erase the hatred underneath, or if dancing around words, referring only to their first letters, moves us any further beyond those schoolyard taunts. Does it raise the bar, expose us for what we are, or only further communicate, or only further expose our failure to communicate? Would more or less words help, or only confuse an issue smothered in words and hatred and so little understanding? Sometimes I think we must pick up those hurtful words and fling them back at the offenders. Nigger, faggot, cunt, banish, ignore, or confront. Confront, confront, confront. A few months back when Zach Crook was here, we had a really great night, and that was also sort of a beginning of some of the things that came into this chaplet. And that night, I remember I read Fierce Peace, and then Mary Cooling came up and sang a peace song, and Matt came up and sang a peace song, and it was just a great night. So I want to read Fierce Peace again tonight. Fierce Peace. We need peace now, and we need it bad. We need to cram flowers down every gun barrel until they can shoot no more. We need peace between the sexes, peace between the parties, peace between the religions, and oh so badly, peace between the races, especially between the races and the religions. I don't mean a pastel peace, pie in the sky peace, pretty pictures in your head of lions sleeping with lambs, or any other fluffy peace. We need fierce peace, fierce enough to keep itself forever. Awesomely beautiful, silent night peace. And I have one more, and this goes back to what Michael Zarnecki was saying about using our voices as poets. And this is called Voice. I write to make my voice heard in this world of din. You may think I'm too quiet, but with poems, I have a loudspeaker to amplify my words, if just a little. I write for many of the same reasons Johnny Cash wore black. This old world's in a heap of trouble, and the ones most in need don't have a voice, while others have been shouting and singing a long time, still to no good outcome. I write for love of my fellow man, and love of the earth, and love of the Creator, who surely doesn't want the world to be so wretched. I write with hope, the audacity of hope, to borrow a phrase from Barack Obama, who borrowed it from Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Hope for fairness, hope kindness will prevail, hope we can somehow come together and save the future of mankind. I write with my strong woman's voice, my strong woman's viewpoint, and my strong woman's compassion. I bid my words to grow stronger each day in order to do a strong woman's work. Words are the strongest thing I have to offer, so I write.
Well, thank you, Renee. Let's take a break until we have our open mic. We have about 5 readers and more if anyone else wants to sign up. Thanks.
Someone sprung a leak, huh? Yeah. The walls started blowing. It's not even raining outside, huh? It's like thunder. Where is it coming from? Very strange. No, those things did that. Me neither. It was like the clock. I knew it was the clock.
Well, I know. Don't worry. That's it. So the spine is just going this way.
How can you persevere from walls leaking? People taking pictures now.
I would have pulled the school marketing. I would have stopped and waited.
Hey, what's going on? That was interesting.
It has
You wanna hold the money? No.
That was
You wanna hold the money?
pretty interesting.
So, yeah, so tell me what she did, because I know nothing of
Let's do that
this,
last
so.
night at the,
Well, you know, they
using the card to pay the money.
My name is Anne-Marie. How are you?
How's my pet?
This, was gonna cost anything but $600.
It certainly is.
We gotta work, plan together, pay taxes.
Well, thank you.
Without inventing a new one, she's spending 12,000.
Welcome back to the open mic. Looks like we have 10 people. Yeah, double.
This was
So we better get going. And the first one is Peggy Starr, a newcomer.
Yes, I don't know if you want a brand new person being first.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you'll be the star, right?
Well, I became a great grandmother on Sunday, and so I thought maybe I would try something brand new. My husband passed away over 8 years ago, and I started writing poetry kind of to take away a lot of the grief, and it really did help. This is one of them I wrote a few years ago, but it's called The Universal Joint. You knew a lot about cars. You were the guru of cars. The boys would call you from afar to describe the noise a car was making. You owned car ramps, changed your own oil. When you were the passenger in my car, you'd say, "What's that noise?" "What noise?" "Damn it, that loud noise. Pull the car over." "I'm telling you, the universal joint is going out." You always thought it was the universal joint. Now I drive the car down the road alone. The noise is loud enough, even I hear it. I pull into the Ford dealer. A man comes out with his pen and clipboard. What seems to be the problem? "It's the universal joint," I say. I'm not really sure what it is, but for a moment, you're still with me. Then I'll just read you one funny story. This is about me, and then somebody else's turn. Well, things happen to me. I'm not young, and mine has not been a sheltered life. I'm a grandma, former negotiator who has negotiated with the Teamsters from Detroit, school personnel director who has fired people, and a landlord who has faced many challenges, including complaints from the neighbors that there was a dog on the roof of my rental. A few years ago, my son, daughter-in-law, and their children left from their few days of visiting. As I was doing my usual round of seeing what they had forgotten, I found a flash drive that belonged to my daughter-in-law. I called her to tell her, and she was panicked because the flash drive contained the information she needed to run her second-hand children's store downstate. I assured her that I would send the flash drive out to her in the mail quickly. The next day I was preparing to leave for town to mail the flash drive and drop off a box of items I no longer needed at the Salvation Army. I put the box in the back of my Ford Escape and drove to the ferry that connects us from Sugar Island to the town of Sault Ste. Marie. I parked in back of the Salvation Army and carried the box of items to be donated through the back door and left it in the back room. I drove down the main street toward the post office when I realized I had put the bag with the flash drive in it in the box with the items to donate to the Salvation Army. I turned the car around, heading back for the Salvation Army down Ashman Street and squeezed into the parking lot. I ran into the back door yelling, "I accidentally left something really important in a box I left here just a few minutes ago." I described the flash drive and that it had been in a plastic bag. One of the workers said, "I remember that. I didn't know what it was, so I threw it in the dumpster behind the store." She said, "It should be there because the dumpster was empty just yesterday and it doesn't have much in it." In my excitement to get out to the dumpster, I realized I was carrying my large purse and turned to one of the workers hurriedly and said, "Here, please hold my purse for me while I go look." He said, "I don't think you want any of us to hold your purse, ma'am." I looked at the workers more closely and realized they were all wearing orange outfits. I was about to hand my purse to prisoners. The opening to the dumpster was closed. The top had hinges in the middle and folded over. There were steps leading up to the opening. I climbed the steps, struggled to open the top as it was heavy, and peered into the dumpster. Over in the corner, on the floor, I spotted the bag with the flash drive in it. I climbed into the dumpster and grabbed the bag, but then I could not get out of the dumpster. The steps were outside. There were no steps inside. I tried to pile the few items that were there up, but it was not high enough to climb out, and I was stuck in a dumpster behind the Salvation Army in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I began to yell, "Help, help!" No one heard me. "Help, help!" After what seemed like a long time, a couple pulled into the parking lot, got out of their car, and pulled out a box of items. As embarrassing as it was, what else could I do as they walked by? I yelled again, "Help, help, I'm stuck in this dumpster." They were hesitant. I went inside to get help. Out came a person with a step ladder, and I climbed out with the flash drive in hand. I thanked that person and slinked to my car. I have not been in the Salvation Army since then. I take my items to Goodwill.
Frank Blissett is next.
Okay, let's see here. First one I'm going to do because I was talking with Alex just a few minutes ago. And I had been thinking about this poem, and then it kind of crystallized when we were talking about childhood and such. And this came from an M.L. Liebler workshop that we had, so it'd be nice to have him up here again at some point. And this is Unlearned. I don't remember who was there exactly. The Matheny's were, all of them, I think. My parents were too, and my sister, I think. I think they were there, maybe. I know 2 Mormon missionaries were, one with a big wad of gunpowder, and my favorite softball. My orange softball that we should see as it goes up. A big boom from the pipe, but we couldn't see much beyond a blur. A few minutes later, I found a neat, circular pile of cotton on the road. Not 200 feet down the road, years later, I was on the hood of an old CJ Jeep, Shane and Angie inside. We were getting close to home, so I stepped down to the running board to swing in. But there weren't running boards on that old CJ Jeep. I don't recall slipping from the hood, nor getting up and walking to the house. I do remember, though, running fast for a few seconds, with the slope down our woods to my right, and the road feeling like clouds beneath me. Was that the same summer we wrecked the Jeep? Shane wanted to show how much fun it was to fishtail over ripple boards. I'll admit it was fun, the Jeep tumbling back to front, and there wasn't anything to be done about it anyway. A moment later, my mother appeared from nowhere. For all this, I can't remember the sounds. Was the radio on? Did the turf rip? Did things settle? What did my mother say? What did she want to say? All of that was long after I had looked up from my seat below a big plantation pine and wondered. The age-pruned nubs of old branches were just far enough apart I could reach, hold close to the trunk, and just climb. Climb till I was above all the scrubby scrub, felt the summer breeze, and forgot the urge to come to my senses. And this next one is titled, there it is, Syringa, which is an old world name for lilacs. And lilacs come from, as far as I know, from Greece and that area. The sun's first rays brought bronze death on a Doric Adriatic shore, where the sands sing before the waves, and the olive sings before the breeze, and where the damp sands were dampened further, while further down the shore the ravens watched. By noon the trireme raised its sails, and only one was left ashore, to let his heart fall. To regret the bower not lay in, and dances not danced, and sweet perfumes not discovered on her golden skin. Instead, to lay damping sands beneath the wild lilacs. Today, lilacs are for lovers, or at least the dream thereof, from lovers yet to be. Or, more often, the memory thereof, wafting its aroma around a shut-in, walking home from her weekly shopping trip. And with all the talk of peace and such, I don't have too many explicitly peace songs in here, but I do have a John Lennon poem. This is Cold Turkey, inspired by the song of the same name, and a friend of mine who heard it at the casino of all places. Temperatures rising! I stopped short between the rows of nickel machines. Fever is high. And remember of the fever of a life, interesting, lived. I wish I was dead. In the street or on a bed, lived. And I tried to follow suit, try still to live, though not as loud as once I could, when the whole world seemed rolling in pain. 30, 40 years since, the world has moved from fix to fix and wound up here, 2011. A little casino, playing oldies through tinny black speakers. As Lennon moaned and groaned his pain, Tipsy the lucky hippo squealed in delight. His guitar faded into the tinkling plinking of the slots. I've been known to idle an evening too, turning 20s into buckets of quarters. But there was a time all I wanted was a hippie in a bag. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Elizabeth Shaffer's next.
Not being properly prepared, which seems to be my approach to life in general. Today I was thinking, what did I want to read? Well, I actually had planned to read a couple connected to some of Renee's. because I have had a chance to know her and hear her poetry, and it makes me think a great deal. Now, sometimes we think very differently, and it took me a while to get my head around her idea of doggedness. And then I realized later that lives are different. So here is a little poem that I had written, which was kind of, my spirit has walked a different path. She's got the bone in her teeth and won't let go. You can hear the growl if you listen, deep, low, coming from a spirit that survived, for she's a survivor, despite the odds. She kept on, and she learned how to keep on by not letting go of that thread of life, even if it meant holding on to that bone of contention, not giving in. So she didn't give up the ghost, or the bone, or the chance to get beyond. Where is beyond this place? When can one let go, lay down the bone, not have to fight for life, for the chance to live, for every morsel of meat on old bones that others cast away and then try to grab back if she has them? When does it stop being so hard? When does it stop being the last time, the last chance, the last drop of energy or lifeblood? When can she let go of old bones and rest? And this idea of peace that we've been in, peace and struggle, is very, very close to me. I've worked with way too much pain in my life, and people who have had pain. And I know it touches my poetry. I wrote this one a year or so ago, read it once unedited, and apparently I'm going to be reading it unedited again because somehow or other in the flip-off, especially considering my adrenal dysfunction of editing rest, I decided to go rest. That wasn't very productive, but probably editing at that point wouldn't have been either. Of course, we all know there isn't a blue crane. Brown, gray, red on their head, raucous calls at dawn or dusk, the haunting melody of the wild north, or the somewhat tamed north, the ritualized mating dances on the warm spring mornings or evenings. But what if one was born a crane, and early life patterning was to be a duck, or a dung beetle, or a lost child? What if one wandered, searching for one's kin, for one's kind, for one's self or sense of self, trying to make one's raucous call into a quack or a melody, or to voices heard on a breeze that blows from the stacks and the smokestacks that reach to the sky without shelter or comfort in the night? What if one never discovered the purpose of wings, the freedom of flight, the possibilities of capabilities denied by unknowing one's true self and nature? So the blue crane sings a lost song, as unheard as the voiceless shrubs where the songbirds of Europe no longer flit from branch to limb, where the children cower in shelters, forgetting the purpose of voice, never understanding choice, lost in a world without touch or care or fresh breezes that are now unable to blow clean air. The blue crane's song lingers in the silence, as unheard as the sobs of a lost world, yet as enduring as the lost spirit seeking freedom, her voice, a lonesome sound haunting yet the valleys and bouncing off the mountains, whispering that tomorrow comes. Even amid this chaos, tomorrow comes, and it is a new day, and may it bring new songs, where the color shifts, and the cranes can fly, the coyotes howl, and the children are allowed to dance. Less ritual in their dance than laughter, raucous in that laughter on the warm spring mornings and nights. And this one is in the process of editing as I read it.
You're not supposed to admit that.
That's okay, I've seen you scribble. Most of my poetry, and it's funny because I talked to my son, and my son's actually going through divorce, and his soon-to-be ex-wife asked what happened to the poet who used to write her poetry, and he said life happened. And he told me he regretted being able to write poetry because now it was something that was requested instead of a gift. And I told him that poetry is about letting your soul have wings, letting out the feelings that get trapped there. And so I blessed that he could write poetry, and I hoped he always would. In the meantime, that's kind of what I do. And it's been a rough year, so pardon the fact that this is not all cheery. Tears and anger try to squeeze each other out as they vie for the state of mind, as they hide from view, lurking in the deep recesses of a mind too exhausted to fight them and too tired to feel. It's just life, you know? Divorce, disappointment, dog bites, desperation, illness, financial need, injury, loss, just too much of life, if this is life, to want to go on. To what? Living this way? People need joy. Sometimes they need it more than food. And thinking of my Father's God, I feel guilt that I should be counting my blessings. But I do, each night, each day, and even each moment as I fear losing them, like everything else that seems to be lost, from a God, my Father's God of retribution, who takes the last farthing from anyone who fails to invest it well, and thank him for the pain or accept anything. For that was my Father's God. The God who creates the fundamental message of doom and judgment and gloom and hellfire, that I should be mad at fate or frustrated with life or angry or hurt or despairing when the good falls short. For I am angry at the world and at all the causes of all the losses and of all the reasons for all the pains, and I want to fly free to somehow experience something kind, something gentle and friendly from the universe. And that is why I watch the trees. I lie and stare at the green leaves, trying to soak it up, this small joy, this salve for a frayed life, this minor blessing in a time of myriad losses. My God grows green and verdant. My God sends rain into the thirsty ground and on the newly planted springs of green in the garden. My God shines sunlight liquid through green leaves, creating a fluid blessing in the gentle wind. My God forgives me for all the pain that I fail to tolerate with smiles, for my anger at unfairness, for my sadness that coalesces into despair at the too many losses in too short a time. My God might let life happen, but my divinity forgives the frail of heart, for being unhardy in the gale, for having weakness when life batters all of my being into chasms of despair. My God knows and cries with me, and lets me cry, and bids me still be.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Alex Chornyj is next.
I'm probably like a nightingale coming out of the sky into a morning, because this morning when my wife made pancakes and I was using my organic honey and I was pouring it on the pancake, it first made a symbol of a musical note and then it went like this. And I was thinking what then my daughter said, "Daddy, that's a heart." And I said, "Yeah," and that just came from Grandma.
Oh, yeah.
So there we go. An omen. I wrote this yesterday. I haven't typed it out. I haven't sent it to Mary yet or anything. She gets every single one that I've ever written in the last 3-4 years. This is for my wife, Shimmering Rainbow. When I think of you, what first comes to mind is a moon on a star-filled night, as if I can touch what is so far yet near in my heart. So big and there for the asking, making the impossible come true. For if I believe strongly with all that is within me, there's no telling what might happen. Isn't this the magic and miracle rolled into one? To trust our instincts, to see the invisible, to do what sounds absurd but makes perfect sense, when in the arms of one with whom you can do no wrong. This and then some is what transpires when your hand grasps mine in such a tender, loving way. So that giant orb comes right down to earth, not only in earshot, but is larger than life. For it's there to be had if we only dared to dream, to put into practice these strings to which we're attached. Then do we truly begin to humbly comprehend what it means to walk on air, to be in the presence of an endearing soul, whose thoughts are intertwined in a parallel synthesis which translates into a shimmering rainbow. This is my daughter. So this is my daughter, the sprite that she is, and the bouncy. Believing in leprechauns, believing in the impossible can come true, because it can if we only allow ourselves to get beyond the physical, because we all exist multidimensionally. Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and etherically. Because each and every one of us has an aura that wraps around our body. Hence why my shaman friend can go out of body whenever he wants to through meditation, and he can transcend time throughout all the portals, because the portals are there if we only open ourselves to the existence of what is there, instead of closing ourselves off because we're bound by the physical. Here we go, bundle of energy. I open the portals for my daughter to believe anything is possible. I don't want to miss a thing. I know that I rush a little. This is due to my spontaneity. I have lots of time to slow down. Right now, at this minute, it's the last thing on my mind. I'm just go, 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 which can even tire me out. This happens not often, as I'm a bundle of energy. My words come out before I've even thought them through, which can get me into trouble. It's not my middle name, but I do my share to skip and jump with glee. Isn't that what life is all about? At least at this stage. I just want to play games. I hope such fun always lasts. The other side, I've heard, has sounds that are full of silence. I want to be where there's music, to sing to my heart's content. I see this with a child's eyes. I know the day will come, if it really has to, when I must leave this all behind. This will be boring, as I envision to be as free as a bird, so happy that I have endless smiles. As here are my wings. Will it mean that the magic is gone? If so, then I wish to stay as I am. Who says we have to grow up? I can still be responsible and not lose this innocence, for these are the crystals from which dreams are made of. Budding spirit. This one speaks about itself. I work in a jail, so I work around a lot of negative energy all the time. And I do negative energy clearings every single day when I go in order that my spirit guides help protect me, which they always do. And they did last night when we had a lot of ruckus in our jail. So this is called budding spirit. Don't live within another's shadow. Be who you are. Cast your light beyond. Don't care what others think. Be your own person. Have autonomy. Stand on your 2 feet. Be the sole influence. Why you do what you do. Be the decision maker who creates openings. Then walk with your head high. For managing matters, putting your face on the image, not a rubber stamp of someone else, as there's no one who is more qualified than the voice that speaks from inside. Have your say outwardly. Make your mark on the world. Show what you are made of. March to the beat of a singing drum that has your signature from a sound that emanates from within these walls. Have expectations to express freely what's bound inside your bindings, to expand your horizons in all directions. Go where you see fit. Touch the hearts of those who are in your circle. Grow as you are meant to. Let your breath encapsulate the force that pushes you, which is the budding spirit from your spring. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
You're welcome.
Sandy Robbins. And we have 4 more after Sandy, and we're running out of time a little, so if I could limit it to 1 or 2, I guess.
That's all there are.
2 is good? Okay, great.
On the 9th of January in 2010, I received a phone call I'd hoped I would never receive. And that was that a dear cousin of mine, who was a month and 3 days shy of her 93rd birthday, had passed on. She was a woman of deep faith, and she had shared her faith constantly throughout her life with many family members and friends. Anyone who ever met her knew that faith was part of her being. Anyways, poetry is not my thing for my pen and paper, but with Rhea's passing, these 2 poems came to me, and I was able to read both of them at her memorial service the following July. The first one is a little bit longer than the second one, and I'll read it first because maybe it will tell you a little bit about who she was. I've named it Heaven's Surrogate. Once, God sent his son for all, and then for us, his daughter. 6 generations would be blessed by her presence. 6 generations would love her so dear. At her grandfather's knee at 3, she would learn of the Father. 'Tis God's hand moves the grain, sweet Rhea. Those soft-spoken words would hold her through life. Day by day growing in faith, she knew to look up for heavenly signs. Each day she would fill with love and caring. Her smile was her gift, her way of sharing. A stranger for a moment was a friend for life, soon wrapped in the warmth of her comfortable way. With the lightness of a child, she would grace her grandparents' last days. Then watch out world, she would blossom and bloom. A beautiful woman was she. Life to the fullest and mirth were hers. Who didn't yearn for time with her? But God needed help. A brother, her father, her mother, and more would need and know her gentle care. Her faith was her strength. She practiced it well. To her church and her friends, she was always true. Granted full measure of cheer and compassion, love here on earth she abundantly gave. When fun was the mood, she'd take to the floor to dance, or to earn a child's smile in a game. Through mutual joy and warm belly laughter, 3 generations of youth would be her delight. A cheer she would give for each good step they'd make, and a tear she would shed when poor was their choice. Not a mother herself, but a surrogate to all, kind and steadfast, caring and firm, ever quick with a smile and a gleam in her eye. Nieces and nephews and cousins alike knew the warmth of her home and the love within. Open to all was her heart and her love, willingly giving her time, talents, all. She rejoiced in her Lord every day of her life and left us knowing it was just for a while. Granddaughter and daughter, sister and cousin, mere auntie at first, then greater and greatest, all the days of her life. Now resting at home, this angel so rare continues to bless us with her love and her care. Thank you. And the second one, part of Rhea's being was she liked to kind of tease her sister who didn't believe in any of this at all, but for Rhea, there were messages in the sky. Every cloud wrote something to her. And so I named this one Sky Messages. Life as we knew it has passed, but tomorrow and all still to come, there will be opportunity for joy. Don't shun it in sadness, but smile for me and embrace its gift as a treasure. Remember the good times and all the smiles, the laughter and the simplest of pleasure. Look up. I'll write in soft clouds of white if I can. Look forward to the path that lies before you. Choose the sweet high road and give others a break. It's of your heart and soul you'll be remembered. Share them well and fully all your days. Yes, life as we knew it has passed. Still, as always, I'm in your heart and at your side. Believe the promise and treasure our tomorrows.
Thanks, Sandy. And Mark Senkus is next.
Hey, I had a love poem. I was going to say you don't hear it in months now. I haven't heard too many of them, but Alex read a great one earlier. So, and to save on time a little bit, I'm just going to read one. I'll save the love poem for another time. A little something to do with technology. Susan mentioned that the camera might not be working perfectly tonight, so kind of fits this a little bit. And those who are have cell phone addictions might disapprove of this a little bit. Based on a true story. It's called Cavemen. This is what we've become, like cavemen huddled and pointing to chalky figures drawn upon the walls of a cave. We standing around pointing at photos of blue whales on a cell phone taken while on vacation. One says, "Here, look, this one, look, here's another." The other replies like a caveman without a developed language, standing there responding in grunts and sounds. Ah, oh, yeah, until the slideshow finally reaches a merciful end. We have degenerated with our technology. We once told stories about seeing a blue whale, or wrote poems about how we felt seeing this whale, trying to capture her immense buoyancy in art. Or at least we were spurred on to learn some curious scientific facts about the whale in front of us. Like, did you know, for example, that blue whales are considered mature between 5 and 10 years old? That they can live for at least 80 years? That blue whales were once hunted by man nearly to extinction, back before 1966, before cell phones existed. Thank you.
That's Mark. You'll have to share that one in October. Alan Seymour is next.
Okay. David Crosby said, "Who are the men that really run this land? Why did they run it with such a loveless hand? What are their names? What streets do they live? I'd like to ride right over there this afternoon. I'd like to give them a piece of my mind about peace for mankind. Peace is not an awful lot to ask." Pretty good, huh? Well, we don't have time for a big concert. This is a song I wrote a dozen or so years ago called "Giving My Freedom." Given my freedom, I would run to you. Given your freedom, come to me. You still you, me still me, and one unite. But love, I have no freedom. And here I chain now to but who am I to do like you and would kill it, spark of love. Who knows, who cares? The only way to you is through myself and others. Well, love's the same, yeah. We do not battle time. Instead I would search, grow, and we love. Two lives entangled in a web of others, and we are me as one, as two, as more, as potentially time to go home.
Oh, yes.
This started out as like a 50-line poem that ended up a 15-line song. Took a year. of stone, my friends. 4 feet tall, 2 stones deep, 6,000 stones for 60 feet. For 60 years, forgotten sins and precious friends. For 60 years, forgotten sins, precious friends. And it starts with a gate like an open heart. The strongest stones are there, made for friends, builders of my life. And there are special ones buried front and center, with names like Ask 'em, Children, Radio. They are the keepers of the trust in man, and they're there, remembered always as this man's best friends. And there's a hidden wall behind it all, for the brick and the brick of life, for the broken branches of promises and dreams, and the pebbles of pettiness and pride. And buried there are the stones of hurt and pain, and the dirt of lies, betrayals, amongst the needed to be forgotten. This wall is weighted with love and regret, with sadness and hope and life. I have a wall of stone, my friends, 4 feet tall, 2 stones deep, 6,000 stones for 60 feet. For 60 years, forgotten sins, precious friends.
Thanks, Alan. We have about 3 minutes for 2 people, Carl and Diane. Do you want to
I'll just give
get
up.
past? Diane, would you like to finish? Sorry.
I do want to say that Sault Ste. Marie is rich in poets and poetry and singers and songwriters. And it's good to be in Sault Ste. Marie again for a while. I left my activist poems at home, actually.
Really?
Yeah, quite a few. I'll just read a couple things that aren't long. This one's called Earth Light Meditation. Maybe Anne-Marie will remember this. I am leaf in darkness awaiting the dawn. I am rock of many colors forged from molten earth. I am feather, pure white, flying on moonbeams. I am wave, endlessly lapping, musical rhythm, soothing and invigorating. I am white pine, shawl dancing, reaching skyward. I am reflection of light, dazzled by Her Majesty, the universe. I am leaf in darkness, preparing to fall into knowing the oneness of all. This one's sort of for the season. July from the deck. She sits breathing in heavy early morning air, brings occasional spoons of oatmeal to her mouth, notes sweetness of raisins missing, aware of whistling in her ears, distant hum of a plane. Looking down, she sees blue spidery veins on calf of her crossed leg, feels stiffness in her hips subsiding. A sparrow lands by her feet, small and furtive, searching for seeds. Turning, she looks into the face of the white bearded man across from her, eyes narrowed in a locked gaze. They exchange rabbit wiggles of their noses in practiced acknowledgement and laugh.